Hey guys, another video here. I had a request to show how to go about setting up the Wizard with the Flysky receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and go through that now. It's fairly straightforward. So if you ordered the ARF version, the almost ready to fly version of the Wizard, it's not going to come with the receiver, obviously. And what you'll end up getting is this cable here, and it will be attached to the flight controller in this first port up here. And so what you'll notice is there's already some wires trimmed there, and it only fits one way. But this is the place where the plug for the PPM port. And then this back plug back here is for S-Bus. So if you're doing like a FR Sky, Tyrannus, or other, transmitters that use S-Bus, you'll take this wire, pop it out, and plug it in back here. But for Flysky, you'll leave. I think it comes already plugged in here. But if not, you'll want to plug this wire in here, as shown. If you can see, the white wire is on the inside and the black wire is out toward the back side. And then in terms of the receiver, this is the FS-IA6B. And what I did was I just put a piece of double-sided tape on the back side of it and mounted it to the top part of the frame underneath here. And then what I do is take the battery cable and come underneath like this and wrap it in like that, and it just keeps it in there better. I figure I'd be crashing a lot, so I don't want to have that flying around in there if it's not in there really good. So the next step you'll want to do is take this cable, and if you notice on the receiver, there's on this bottom channel 1. There it says PPM channel 1. You want to take the wire from the flight controller and plug that in like this right here. So the gold pins should be facing inward. So you'll plug it into that PPM channel 1 and just make sure it's in there snug. And that's pretty much it for hooking this up and getting this set up. The next thing you'll want to do is this is something you should have got with your receiver. And so what you'll want to do is on this top port, this is the place you plug it in. I don't think it matters which way it goes because you're just bridging those two pins. But you'll want to plug this in into that top port like this. And once that's plugged in, you'll want to get a battery, plug the battery, your 3S or 4S or whatever you're using battery, plug that in, and then the receiver will be in bind mode. And then at that point, what you'll want to do, and I won't go in depth on this, you can find another video, but at that point you'll want to take your Flysky receiver and whatever model you've created for the Wizard, you'll want the receiver to be off. You'll hold this bind button down while you power on the receiver. And when you do that, it will bind this receiver to your Flysky, bind this transmitter to your Flysky receiver. And that's it. You should be set up at that point, at least in terms of the transmitter talking to the receiver and the receiver hooked into the flight controller. Okay, now that you have this bound to your quad and you have your model created, the next thing you're going to want to do is go in turn your transmitter on. Go in. You're going to want to hold the OK button down. That'll bring up this menu for system setup or for functions setup. Hit the down button. Go over to functions setup. Hit OK. Go down to auxiliary channels. Hit OK. And then what you're going to want to do is for your two auxiliary channels, 5 and 6, you're going to want to set which switches control those channels. So when I show in a minute the Betaflight setup, you're going to need a channel to arm the quad and start the motors up. And then you're going to need a channel to change the mode of the quad to angle mode, horizon mode, or air mode. That's kind of how the copter flies. Does it have, is the accelerometer and gyro and all that on the quadcopter helping you out at all? When you're in acro mode, it's not. When you're in angle mode and horizon mode, it is to some degree. So what you're going to want to do here is, so I set mine up to be switch A, so SWA. So if you just use the up and downs when you're pointing to channel 5 until it says SWA or whatever switch you want to use, that'll set it up. And then if you hold down cancel, that saves it and exits. So now if you go back in, just make sure that it's still set up. So that's really it. Okay, I'm going to show the Betaflight setup now and how to get everything working correctly in terms of Betaflight. What you'll want to do is you'll want to connect to the USB port to your computer. I'm on a Mac, and once you've connected, you'll want to go in and verify which version you have. This is for version 3.1. I think there are a couple of new versions since then, like 3.2 and 3.3. But you'll want to go to the CLI, and then you'll want to go to version, and you'll want to verify the Betaflight version you have. I won't go over flashing the firmware. There's tons of other videos out there on how to flash the firmware. So I'm just assuming you already have 3.1 installed. So the next thing you want to do is go up to the Setup tab, and you'll want to check your calibration for your accelerometer. So as you can see, mine is off a tiny bit. So you can just hit Calibrate, and it should level everything and calibrate the accelerometer. So next thing we'll do is move on to ports. On ports, just make it look like this. That you shouldn't need, since we're not using S-Bus, serial RX should not be on. If you do need to make a change here, make the change and make sure you hit save and reboot. I'll move on to configuration. I think the default is one shot. I think you can use multi-shot. I remember seeing some videos that there might be issues with it. And since I'm a new flyer, I'm just going to use the standard. You'll want to set your minimum throttle value here, so when the motors spin up, and if you're doing acro mode, I don't think you want to have this on. Well, I think acro mode will override that anyway. So if you don't want the motors to spin up, you can turn this on, and the motors won't spin up until you touch the throttle. But if you have that off and you have the minimum throttle on, this will cause the motor to spin up a very, very small amount. The next thing on the Eachine Wizard that needs to be done, some people I've seen set the yaw degrees to 90, and the reason for that is to get the USB port turned around over to the side where you can access it even when even when you don't have the carbon fiber sides on or the top on. They have the spot where you can access it easily from there. So what you need to do is either set your yaw degrees to 90 because the flight controller is rotated, or I saw another video where the guy changed the alignments for these to clockwise 180. And the reason behind him doing this versus this was it used less CPU resources. So I went ahead and went that route as well. The next thing you'll want to do is make sure your receiver's on PPM RX input. I set the gyro and PID loop frequencies to 4 and 2. I think you can bump that up to 4 and 4. I'm not positive on that. I've also installed a buzzer on mine off Joshua Bardwell's channel. He had a tutorial on how to connect to hack the VBAT on the Wizard so you can get the voltage information for your battery. So I did that and added a buzzer, and so now I'll get the buzzer when the battery's getting low, or I can use the buzzer. You know, anytime I put it into fail-safe mode, the buzzer will go off. So that's nice to have on the quad. And I'll also put some links in the description on the video that I referenced by Joshua Bardwell, where he shows how to do the VBAT stuff, as well as the buzzer that I'm using that I bought online. The next thing that I do down here is turn all this off except for black box. Since there's no telemetry or any of that kind of stuff, you really don't need any of that. And that's pretty much it on that screen. On failsafe, you want to make sure it drops. And then you want your throttle to be on hold and your guard time to be 5, so about half a second. So what that means, what's going to happen is if you're flying through the air and you lose signal to your transmitter, it's not going to just immediately start dropping from the sky. It's going to continue on the same path it was going on for half a second. And so hopefully during that half second, that's time for to make connection again to your receiver and gain control, so it doesn't just start dropping out of the air. And that's it on that screen. PID tuning, I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about this. Once again, I use these values off of Joshua Bardwell's tutorials on setting up the Betaflight for the Wizard. So I'm not experienced enough yet to know when I'm flying that, oh, the pitch and the pitch roll and yaw proportional, and you know, these things need to be adjusted in a certain way to get a different flight characteristic. So I'm not even going to go through that. You can just look at these values and copy them, or you can go do more research on your own. The next thing to do is on the receiver. You'll need to plug your battery in for this to work, but for the Flysky receiver, you'll want your channel map to be AETR1234, unless you change that in the Flysky receiver, which I don't even know if you can, but this is how it comes by default. And then what you'll want to do is look at your midpoints here. And so when the sticks are all centered, I don't have the throttle centered right now, but I'll go ahead and center that. So when the sticks are all centered, to be right at 1500. So let me get it right there. Yeah, so that's about as centered as I'm going to get it with the receiver. But you'll notice all my values here are about 1500. Now, one of the things I was really confused on that I couldn't find a whole lot of information on was I would see it a lot of places, but people would talk about you want your min and max on these things to be 1,000, 2,000. But what would happen to me is, so when I'd lower the throttle down, it would go down to like 980 something, and when I'd go to the high point on the throttle, it would go to like 227. So I wasn't really sure how to make those adjustments. And what you're going to want to do is in your Flysky receiver, there is in your Flysky receiver there are endpoint settings. So in your Flysky receiver, if you go back to the function setup menu and you go down to endpoints, you'll see channel 1, which is going to be your aileron. You'll want to go in and match that up, play with these endpoint values. And the way you adjust these is when you pull the stick, you'll notice that the arrow moves when you pull the stick to the right. If you push the stick to the left, the arrow moves that way. So the aileron is your roll. And so what you're going to want to do is while you have the stick pulled there, you're going to want to look at the value in Betaflight. You'll see the value is 1999, but if I push up or down while this stick is over, it's going to start adjusting that value. The same thing if you push this way. This will do the minimum and the maximum. And so what you want to do, I'm not going to go through each one of these. You're going to want to go through all, your roll, pitch, yaw, and throttle, and make sure your mins and maxes by adjusting these endpoint values for each of your four channels, puts the endpoints as close to 1,000 and 2,000 on the min and max as you can get. So that's it for the receiver setup. Oh, and you also want to make sure that your aux1, when you hit your aux1, that you see the value change. Same thing for your aux2, your switch 3. You should see three values. You're going to want to go to your modes tab, and then once you're in your modes tab, you want to make sure that you can arm. So you'll see here that I have the arm range 1500. Since this is a 2-position switch, I have that on aux1. Remember when we set that up in the controller, that was my my channel 5, which is my aux1 for the Flysky receiver. So when I switch this switch, you'll see it goes like that, and my motors do in fact spin up when I do that. So that's another big thing, is make sure you do not have your propellers on. Take your propellers off before you do any of this. The second switch is going to be my SWC, which is going to, so right now it's at its top in position 1. When I go to position 2, it goes to horizon mode. When I go to position 3, it goes to air mode. So that's about it for the basic setup down through modes. The only other thing I would do here is calibrate your ESCs. And the way you do that is you're going to want to unplug the battery from your quad first. So you're going to unplug the battery from your quad. And then you're going to make sure the propeller's off. Propellers are off of it. And then you're going to click this box here. I understand the risk. Propellers are removed. Enable motor control. You're going to do that. And then you're going to take this master and you're going to put it all the way at the top. And then you're going to plug your quad back in. And then you're going to hear it making a lot of beeping noises and different tones and stuff. When all that beeping is done, take this master and lower it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to plug this in. Okay, so you heard all that beeping. And once it's done, then you're going to take this and lower it. And it did a lot of other beeping. And now that means that your motors are calibrated. So if your motors are off, you can actually take this and you can see your motors moving and see the throttle. Like I said, take your propellers off because that would be bad news if you didn't. Anyways, so that's setting up the ESCs. The only other thing I can think of to set up here, so we can go ahead and disconnect from here. The only other thing I've done setup-wise is if you go into this BLHeli Configurator, which you can download from the same place on the Google Chrome store where you got Betaflight, the only other thing I've done is flashed the ESCs. And so I think you have to do them one at a time. But I didn't mess with any of this stuff. All I did was click flash firmware. It pre-selects the version of the ESC you have, and then you can come in here. And 16.65 was the latest version. So I went ahead and selected that and flash. I'm not going to do that again because I've already done it, but when you flash, you'll see a progress bar come across here, and do them individually, don't flash all. And then when you're done flashing that, hit right setup. And that should be it. You should be at this point ready to go fly, I think. I don't think I missed anything. But anyways, leave me a comment or subscribe or like the video or whatever, but I hope this helped you. Thanks. Bye.